Apparently not Kathleen Ron Howard.
Kennedys.
Oh yeah, Kathleen Kennedys.
And welcome to the Down in Front podcast. Thanks for joining us, y'all. I'm going to be Mike the Shredder, your host for tonight. Warren is sick with pneumonia or something that he contracted, the kissing disease from cows. So he's not be able to join us tonight. That first one's a lie. It's not pneumonia. Tonight, I'm joined by some very special guests. Let's go around the table and introduce yourselves and what have you been watching and what have you been drinking. Abbott, why don't you lead us off?
Sure, yeah. I'm actually, just like the movie we're going to discuss tonight, I'm keeping it PG. So I'm drinking a little bit of water and a little bit of blueberry lemonade. Keeping it safe for the kiddies tonight. And as far as what I've been watching, over on the Beer Boners Twitter, we were actually approached by a couple of independent filmmakers to check out their movies. So I watched Horror Hotel and Rideshare. Both of them are free up on Amazon right now. They're both pretty fun. They're horror movies. One is about a sadistic serial killer who drives essentially an Uber, and it's kind of told from his perspective and his like messed up internal monologuing, and he just kills everybody. So it's weird. It stars a bunch of like semi-famous YouTubers, so that's kind of awkward. But you know, it's fun. And then the Horror Hotel one is more of an anthology. It starts off a little goofy and then gets kind of grim and dark. So I was really into that one. And yeah, if you have Amazon Prime, look for them and check them out.
So I have to ask you this. On the first movie you were talking about, the Uber driver one, after they're dead, does Logan Paul come out and make a video of them?
That definitely would have made the movie a lot more interesting. It would have upped the stakes infinity.
I was going to ask if Rideshare was just the autobiography of the cash cab guy.
I wish.
Dude,
I'd watch that 10 times.
That dude is hilarious. If y'all on the for the Derek Sellings and Ryan Dowds out there haven't checked out, what is it, like Ben something?
Ben Carson?
No, I have no idea. We should probably know this if we're about to plug him. But check Ben Bailey. Check him out. He is utterly hilarious. He does this deadpan comedy bit that I don't think is really in style anymore, but it's amazing if you were growing up in 2009. All right, so I think you heard his sweet, sexy voice, but I'm going to pass it off to the mouth from the south, Bryland.
Hey, how's it going this evening? What I'm drinking tonight is I have Arizona iced tea, second best flavor, the Southern style sweet tea. Like I was telling Warren the other night, it's not like what your mama makes, but it's close enough because it's 99 cents. The price is on the can. And what I've been watching recently is I've been checking out Marvel's new TV show, Cloak and Dagger. I've watched the first 3 episodes, and I am pretty digging it, even though it's kind of slow paced. It's definitely an origin story where it's like Tandy and Tyrone trying to figure out their powers. But there's a lot of things here that I like, but there's a lot of things here that I kind of wish that it was part of the Netflix family, because these are some of the streetwise Marvel heroes that you have, because it's on Freeform, which is kind of ABC's CW channel. And so everybody seems overly pretty, and there's a lot of music geared towards younger audiences and stuff. But they do some weird things where they base it in New Orleans, but no one speaks with a Cajun accent or speaks Creole, which throws me off a bit. And there's just those CW-esque moments. But one thing that I respect about the show is it is very, very dark, so it actually stays pretty true to these characters.
And is there anywhere we can find that online? Is it just like ABC streaming or?
Yeah, Freeform. They have like their own website you can watch it to stream on, or Hulu. Could watch it there.
Hulu. All right, cool. Yeah, I was gonna check it out. I'm super behind on my Marvel TV. Cool. Thanks, Browland. Definitely gonna have to check that out. So I'm Mike the Shredder. I'll be hosting tonight. As for what I've been watching, I have been watching Hereditary. Finally caught that flick in the Metro Plex. I have not listened to the Fear Boners episode yet, as I saw it only a night or two ago. But I'm excited to listen to it and hear what everyone thought. I have my own thoughts. It was freaking awesome. Scared the hell out of me in not a jump scare way, which I really can't stand jump scares. I know they're effective, but for me they're cheap, and this movie really played off that well. As for the other thing, I'm getting a little bit hairy, as you could tell in our video teaser, and pretty much every 6 months for the last, well, it's only happened once, but basically Queer Eye comes on, and then I feel good about myself, and I shave and buy a couple new pieces of clothing. So I bought new shorts because my butt was feeling a little bit fat, this afternoon, and so I was like, I'm gonna get some stuff that actually fits me, and so the beard's probably gonna go next because I've been watching this with Queer Eye, and the new Fab Five, man, they got me feeling good about myself, and made me feel good about my potential too. Maybe I can host this podcast. That's my potential. As for what I'm drinking, I got myself something I've never seen before. It's a Shipyard Monkey Fist IPA. Has no.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've never drank it. It's a solid IPA. I'm definitely digging it right now. Yeah, IPAs are in vogue, and I'm glad Shipyard threw their hat in the ring. All right. Well, so we're stumped.
Stumped?
We're dumped.
I think you mean
stoked?
We're lumped. Frumped?
Lovely lady lumps?
Oh, we're pumped. We're pumped. That's what Warren always says. Silly me, part-time host. Yeah, we're absolutely pumped. We're gonna give you a spoiler-free review after the break. So you're gonna hear the pretty iPhone ringtone. And then beware, because we're going to go all in on this thing. Please check out this movie. It's Pixar. They release one film a year, and they need all your money because they're all poor and starving, because I hear that they're an indie arts film. But yeah, we're going to see you across the break. Bye-bye. Weird. My face isn't anywhere near you. And welcome back to the Down in Front podcast. Welcome back. In this section, we're going to definitely spoil the whole movie. So again, please go see the movie first, Incredibles 2. So Pixar, in according to tradition, they give us a little digital short before the movie to kind of introduce maybe some themes, unless you're Frozen and Coco, and completely unrelated. But this film, we got Bao, which was significantly shorter than Frozen 2.5, and very wonderful. I guess first of all, Abbott, did they play it in front of your showing, just to make sure?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Wonderful. Cool. I guess then to switch it up, then Brylan, give me your thoughts on Bao.
When it comes to Bao, Disney and Pixar, they've been making these phenomenal shorts that lead into their movies, whether they're totally unrelated to the film or not. Some of them I remember, like Paperman and the talking toy box that kind of teaches the bully how to be a good kid. But Bao is no exception. It is phenomenal short film artistry at its finest. The animation's fantastic, especially when you see the elderly mom actually shaping the bao and cooking with it. The texture and just the detail they have on that is amazing. And it actually tells a very heartfelt story about when the kid leaves the nest or just caring for that kid, what parents have to deal with in their emotions when that happens. And I was definitely given all sorts of dimensions of feelings while watching this. Like, from it's funny, it's sad, it's also very horrific and bizarre at the same time. When the Bao kid kind of grows up and gets a little stubble on his face, and she eats him one time, which is very scary, and she realizes what she did and she freaks out. But you find out, you actually meet her actual kid who brings a girl home, and it's kind of just a metaphor for like, hey, I'm becoming my own person and this is going to be my life, especially with I'm bringing in this girl that I met that I really love, and she comes from a different culture than the culture that we're part of. But I want you to learn to love her and stuff. And the mom doesn't want that to happen. She wants her baby. She wants her child. And it's beautiful because at the end they do learn to accept it. And I loved every moment of it. I definitely want to get like a collection of all these short films because I think it's some of the best work that Disney and Pixar are doing right now.
I can definitely agree with you on some of those points, but I'd love to hear from Andrew Abbott first.
Sure. Yeah. No, I definitely echo a lot of Bryland's feelings. Going into it, I was really kind of hoping it was just going to be a cute little thing about like an Asian grandma and her little dumpling baby. But as a man who enjoys dumplings, I would probably not have made a dumpling baby. I would have just eaten it. But I've also made dumplings from scratch. And yeah, I agree. Like the animation of like the delicate maneuver of how they actually form the dumplings and like knead the dough and seal them like was really amazing. The fact that they go back to that a few times and like every time his head kind of gets deformed, she like reforms him and kind of picks him up. But then when you realize it's sort of a metaphor for like the smothering mother, when you realize there's a little bit more to it, and it started to get really heavy, and I kind of got that feeling where I realized like where it was going and what was happening and where the emotion was coming from. And I did tear up a little bit when I realized it was sort of this whole thing about a son kind of moving on and like to a degree taking his parents for granted a little bit. Like it was a little tough there. But the scene that got me in particular was when they sort of rebond, when the actual son sort of shows up back at home and they're eating the buns on bed and they're both just sort of crying and reconnecting and eating the buns. Like that scene was just beautiful. So it's sort of amazing to see what they can do in such a short film, what they can fit in such a short amount of time and how affecting it can be. I really wasn't ready to be in that sort of mindset going in Incredibles, but so I'd say it was like very successful.
Yeah, I think the metaphor itself was super ham-fisted, meaning it like was over the top. Like, hey, this is a metaphor.
We're porking those buns.
Yeah, for this is a metaphor for a child growing up and someone experiencing that. But it worked. Like, weirdly enough, a lot of the time you get these things that are so in your face and like how obvious it is, and it doesn't. But I think it did. I think it mostly because it worked on multiple levels. I think a small child, that a movie like The Incredibles is technically, geared towards, would see this as a cutesy little film. They probably wander off in attention at the end of it, and just see it like, oh, the little funny dough man, poke his tummy and goes, hee hee. But I think that it really structured through the generations. Like for myself, that would have been, I guess 6 or 7 years ago, that weird, maybe a little less, but like, you come home from college and you think you're your own person, and then all of a sudden you realize that like you have that grand reconnection with your parents, when you kind of like get through the college phase and you're like, yeah, they're not bad. You put a death knell on your teenage rebellion and you're just kind of like, all right, well, I'm part of the system and they're pretty cool. They taught me a whole bunch of stuff. Well, at least this was my experience. I don't know how y'all were. But you have that reconnecting moment, and while there wasn't necessarily tears shed, for me, I definitely felt a little bit more connected in that mid-20s range on like who my folks were as a person and the kind of lessons they had to share. And then on the even the older side is like the folks that have had kids and are going through or have gone through that process can kind of look at a film like this and reflect back on how they were as human beings guiding children through every stage of life. And so I think that's why it's super effective. It's an obvious metaphor, but it works on a multitude of levels. Also, as a closing thought on this, my audience was dumb. As soon as she ate the pork bun, or the bao, I guess is what it's. No, they were eating pork buns. Sorry, I love pork buns, and that's all I'm thinking about. They're so good, I even ate the wrapper. So when she ate him, everyone was like going nuts, but not in like a kind of way, like like an idiot way. They're just dumb. And then when the kid came back, it seemed like no one understood that. They're like, "What? Oh my God, what? But like, where's the thing? That's so messed up." It's like, no. We're talking about a metaphor here. This is the metaphor. This is what this means. And it seemed like no one in the audience understood what was going on.
She ate her baby.
Yeah.
I think it was ate my baby.
Except it must have been a New Hampshire crowd, because I don't know. I don't even.
I'll have to say, if Disney doesn't make plush Bao babies, they're going to miss out on about $2 billion.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. I want a plush Bao baby.
Disney will absolutely make a plush Bao baby. Cool. So, I guess speaking of appetizers and food, let's move on to our main course, Incredibles 2. So, I think what we should do is we should break it up into a little bit of some sections. First, I want to cover the characters. We saw them 14 years ago, and let's, I guess, talk about their development till now, plus all the new exciting characters that we got introduced to this time. And then I guess we're going to follow it up with kind of how we felt on the plot of it, and maybe the overall like themes and theories presented by the film, because there was numerous. Let's start about the characters. Mr. Abbott, why don't you get going?
Yeah, it was cool to kind of see everybody back in the saddle. But for me, as I said, like I watched it, the original, the night before. I went to go see it today, and I would highly recommend that for most people because the movie itself actually sort of picks up right as where the first one ends. So it's interesting to see kind of the characters 14 years ago kind of frozen in time and then reactivate on screen and sort of go about doing their thing. But throughout the movie, we're still introduced to a colorful cast. Everybody's favorites are still there. We do get to revisit Edna Mode. She's incredible, as always.
That's the director.
Yeah,
which is incredible.
No, the voice he does is amazing. And what's the agent? We find out Dicker. He has like kind of a bigger role, and he's really funny because he's just like sort of the Danny Glover role. He's just like, I'm getting too old for this shit the whole time, and he's still trying to help them. They
switched the voice actor out this time through, which I thought was perfect casting. Was Jonathan Banks of Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. Unfortunately, I forget his name, but the voice actor was in poor health and passed away before this film could be released. So they had to swap the voice actor out. Couldn't have picked a better person though for that old disgruntled, just like person.
Yeah, and he was one of the. It's kind of funny going back to like the graphical touches, like him and like Mr. Incredible. You see the lines in their face, like as they're getting older. Like you see more of that in this movie, which is kind of cool too. But yeah, throughout the movie, you're kind of introduced to a bunch of new characters, which are great, you know, because there are more heroes that we do get to see in action, which was kind of fun in the original movie because it's sort of, you don't really get an idea for what year it is, but it's this weird, like pseudo futuristic 50s, 60s kind of vibe. And so you see that everywhere, people walking around the street. The other thing graphically is that you see more people and characters in frame. It's almost like when you play a really graphically intensive game and there's like a million NPCs wandering around. There's a few scenes in the movie where like the crowds are huge, so you can sort of see what's going on, even though there's chaos. Like whether they're fighting the Underminer in the beginning of the movie, or there's like the runaway train scene, like all this stuff. There's all these people sort of milling about, and they're all kind of their own little person, and the design is really well thought out. But for me, like Jack kind of stole the show. Like he has some really great moments. So yeah, definitely if you enjoyed the Jack Attack short film, you'll get a lot of that in this movie. So Yeah, character is a big part of the movie, definitely.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. So we do see Jack Jack's powers at the end of The Incredibles, but none of the family sees him do it, do they?
Just the babysitter, yeah.
Just the babysitter. Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I wasn't sure while watching this. Like, wait a minute, didn't they already know Jack Jack has powers?
No, well, because then like they get like a million voicemails from the babysitter, but she doesn't tell. She's like, something weird's going on, something strange is happening. Oh, great, you sent the backup, and then like Syndrome is there. She thinks he's like the backup babysitter, and then that's where like the house explodes and stuff.
I gotcha.
So they never actually see him like do anything crazy.
Cool. Ryland.
Yeah. So I would say probably like besides Jack Jack, the other character that stood out really well for me was Mr. Incredible himself. I think he really had a great job of being the dad this time around and just being the hero of being of a dad. And he has a great dad bod to go along with it. It was great to see like his 5 o'clock shadow just gradually come in at all times, and that even though he's tired as hell, he's still doing all these things for his kids, and he hasn't slept in 3 days, which is amazing. And I thought it was really cool to see him like he didn't understand how they were doing math in Dash's class, so he read the whole book and just showed him how to do it and woke him up early for school and said, let's get your homework done so you know how to do this. And it was cool to see him do this dad commitment thing while Elastigirl was out saving the world. I felt that Violet and Dash, for the most part, they were fine. They kind of played the roles that they were meant to play. Elastigirl was kind of taken out of the picture of the family to kind of lead into what was the mysterious subplot of who is this screen slaver that's trying to take over the world and just like enslave superheroes for the most part. It weirded me out when we saw Winston because I hear Bob Odenkirk's voice, and Winston was exactly an animated Bob Odenkirk. So all I could see was Bob Odenkirk the whole time he was on there. It was just, I mean, it was Better Call Saul the whole time while he was talking.
Honestly, for like 3 seconds, I thought it was Sam Rockwell. Like,
oh yeah, I had that same, yeah.
And then 3 seconds later, I was like, oh no, I know that jackass.
I think they also did a good job of like introducing some characters that have some newer powers, like Void. It is amazing to see how she used her teleportation effects to full stop. I mean, it was even better than what they did with Blink and Days of Future Past. And I also liked the Crusher. He just crushes things, but he doesn't know how to uncrush them. Just because he's the Crusher.
Punch someone?
So they had some funny bits in there, and they used these side characters to great effect to make them happen as well.
I did like how the characters so that was a huge win for me, is that we got to see other characters' powers. Like, it didn't just revolve around the first family. But I thought it was great how they went from like reasonable to irrational and silly. Like the owl and then the belcher, or no, reflux was like hilarious and stupid. You know, it's like, all right, we got to make the crappiest, superhero ever. So we're going to make one dude an owl and one dude have acid reflux. But on the other hand, like, you could see someone like Void showing up in like a Marvel or a DC film. You could see
basically like Portal the game, the superhero.
Right. I liked how they had the momentum thing going, where like if you were dropping with significant force down, you would come out with, like, that was really cool. And like you said, the Crusher, and then who was the other big one? The electric guy was
Brick.
Really cool.
Big Brick guy.
Like, those were the more practical superheroes. And I'm glad we weren't just presented with a bunch of idiots. And also on the flip side, I'm glad that they kind of kept only a couple practical superheroes on that team, and then it seemed like all the rest of them were the like emissary, dignitary guardians, and we didn't get to see them much, but it was cool to see, like, all right, they exist. Just we're not going to pay any attention to them because their powers we've seen a million times. Probably some of them can fly and jump over buildings and I'm Batman, it's whatever, who cares? But we got to see some like kind of fun new, Kevin Feige phase 2 type superheroes, if you will.
Yeah, I would say like the only character that I thought it was just too obvious and just really didn't buy as the villain was Evelyn. Like from the get go, as soon as I saw her, I was like, all right, you're gonna be the bad guy in this movie. I know it. Your hair's messed up. You have a nasty attitude towards your brother a little bit, even though you say you're on his side. You're kind of being reluctant about making all these gadgets. Oh, you make all these gadgets, and look at that. The screen slaver uses gadgets to actually enslave people. I can put 2 and 2 together pretty easily. So I felt that she was just too on the nose of a villain for The Incredibles. I wanted to see something a little bit more complex, kind of like what they had with Syndrome in the first film.
Yeah, I can agree with that. As soon as she showed up, basically she supplanted, because she showed up and kind of like made her case as a character about midway through the movie. And I was like, oh, there's no way they introduce another person. Like, it's 100% her. I thought for a brief second it was going to be your brother, just because Bob Odenkirk plays the slimiest of people just so unbelievably well. Also, this is a small thing, but did anyone else realize she kind of looked like Gary from Team Police when he was on that bender? Go back and watch Team America World Police.
Oh, Team America? Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, so when
Team Police, I was like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna smile and nod.
Yeah, Team America World Police. When he's on the bender, he looks his puppet looks exactly like her, and the entire time I thought it was so unbelievably hilarious.
See, that was the thing with the design in this movie. Now that the graphics are so much more up to par, like Brylan, you were saying Mr. Incredible's 5 o'clock shadow coming in, that wasn't necessarily something you saw in the last movie. Like the weird uncanny valley thing that sort of happens, you get this weird Thunderbirds type thing where they almost look like marionettes because like their heads are really big and their hands and feet are kind of really big, and like especially the women's proportions are kind of crazy sometimes. But it's almost like how much further can they push it for potential Incredibles 3?
Well, that's the weird thing where like Disney's able to digitally age down convincingly real people, and now they're able to animate things at such a degree that like you could fake other mediums, like Kubo was like a digital composition plus some puppets. Or stop motion, where they did clay, I think. But if you could start just digitally animating in that style, like you can do anything convincingly,
Incredibles 3 would be filmed completely in augmented reality.
Yes, and you have to wear a VR headset.
It'll be like when Homer Simpson visited the real Earth.
Yes. No, the one scene that comes to mind in particular, too, is when it's finally revealed that What's-Her-Face is actually the bad guy, and she has Elastigirl there, and she's kind of monologuing and giving her, like, this is how I did it. Her whole body just kind of, like, you can tell they probably did, like, a fair amount of mocap for that conversation, because she's sort of pacing, and she's gesturing a lot, and she's kind of really got this aggressive posture, and it's like, oh, damn, like, that's just, like, a person. Like, it looks like a cartoon, but that's a person. And for me, that was like really cool because she was kind of really threatening. It wasn't like a huge surprise. Like we all sort of knew it was coming. But then like once she sort of has that personality shift, you're like, oh, damn, like, OK, you're pretty serious now. But I thought that was kind of interesting because you wouldn't have gotten that kind of movement, I feel like 14 years ago.
Interesting.
Yeah. One other thing I would add is Violet's love interest. I just love his name and just of a preteen he is. His name's Toady Reidinger, which is like the perfect name for that type of kid too.
Interesting. So I guess I'll say this. My one little piece on the characters. I was a huge fan of how they flipped the nuclear family on its head for this movie. They really made, and this, I think this is pretty prevalent in society today, where, the wife was the breadwinner and the man was the stay-at-home dad. Again, and I think that we're finally breaking through that. Like, it doesn't have to be the dude that goes to, a 9-to-5 insurance salesman type job, and mom stays home with the kids and cooks dinner, and everyone smokes 14 packs of cigarettes a day. We're breaking through those bounds, and I thought it was a very interesting take on how I think the best way to bring the light issues that certain people are having on a certain situation is to flip it on its head, where women might have felt trapped on how they had to cook dinner and keep care of like 16 kids, and like all the kids are doing these wild and crazy things. Like the point of the superhero films isn't necessarily the powers that they have, it's how they interact with them and how they're basically fantastical views of real people. And so you have like Violet being depressed over boys, and Dash being like this insane ADD kid that just can't stay focused, and then Jack being a baby, so who the hell knows what's going on there, and so, if you see a mom in a film taking care of that, you almost don't pay attention to that because it's almost a societal expectation. Whereas if you see like a male figure start to fulfill that role, you start to bring to light like, oh my God, that's way tougher. And on the flip side too, I'd say, like the traditional view on dad for that time era, the 1960s, is that like they go to work from 9 to 5, and then they come home, and then they go work again for another 4 or 5 hours, trying to like make ends meet and put in that overtime and make that big sale so that they can afford dinner for the next month. And that too is also a lot of pressure. And luckily we're at a time when that's slightly evening off and everyone's broke. So both genders have to work, and take care of the kids. There's no one that can just purely stay at home. But it brings to light the pressures that are put on both parent figures and then the kids and how they react to, mom not being home, how they might react to like dad not being home. I thought that was awesome to see, and they really played it out with a lot of maturity, which for a movie made geared towards kids, to handle that with such aplomb was definitely to be applauded.
Well, there's that great moment too where they're in bed talking about, the pitch that they received and if they should do it or like how's it going to go, and like Mr. Incredible's like, oh yeah, I can take care of the kids, no problem. And Elastigirl's just like, oh yeah, you're adorable. That's adorable. And then like the next scene is, I believe he's like holding Jack and they're saying goodbye, and then Jack just loads his diaper. And like that's just the moment where like Mr. Incredible's just like, oh shit. Like what did I sign up for? Like literally.
Yeah. Well, it basically brings to light the pressures that everyone faces in any sort of family situation. Trying to put food on the table, trying to make sure the kids all get to school unhurt and on time.
Family is a loaded diaper, like a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, I would just say, to add to that, I mean, that's kind of where I think they needed to just double down on it and add more about that, like dad trying to raise the kids while the mom is out working, because I think they missed a lot of good marks to actually make it have more depth with that type of a social story that you can actually tell, where you have Mr. Incredible. Yeah, he's shocked for about 5 seconds about not being selected by Winston to be the new superhero to make superheroes legal. But it doesn't take long for him to say, all right, I'm just going to accept this. And yeah, we see him get tired. We see him get a little frustrated, but he never has like a breaking point or anything. He willfully, throughout his tiredness and everything, just accepts that, yeah, I'm your dad and I'm a good person. I'm going to find a way. He does make mistakes, and then he cleanly finds a way to correct those mistakes throughout the movie. So I think they played a little too safe when it came to that.
I don't know. He did have a couple of moments though, like the one part where he's talking with Violet and he says something akin to like, I don't want to be a bad dad. And she has the line like, no, you're super.
Yeah.
Or he does have a moment where he does snap at the kids, and he does have that like Jack Nicholson face at one point where he's got the bags under his eyes and the full 5 o'clock shadow. And like, you can tell he mentions that he hasn't slept in like 3 days. I think that's when like Frozone comes in. and he's like about to take the baby to Edna Mode's house, and he's just like, he looks like he's on death's door from dealing with these crazy kids, and it's like, okay, like, I feel you. But yeah, no, I agree. I think they could have like pushed the saccharine sweet family, like, you know, stick together tiveness. I feel like it was heavier handed in the original movie.
All right, I guess let's talk about the plot. You know, kind of go through and also expand on some of the major themes presented in that. Brian, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so I think the big thing with this plot, it's definitely fun. It's definitely set up to be a great comic book film, but it's very superficial. It hits all its beats and then it leaves. It's not here to tell like a deep message or anything. You do have this plot with Mr. Incredible being a stay-at-home dad, and I think it would have been a cooler movie if we saw more of his journey as a stay-at-home dad and like kind of dive into that a little bit more about who are the real heroes in the world. And so it might have undermined the like superhero-ness of it, but it would have been like really cool to see, hey, Mr. Incredible can also be incredible just by being a dad. And I thought that would have been really cool to do. I find that some of the other side plots were just kind of just a little messy and just really didn't really capture, like, get me invested. Like I thought Violet's preteen crush was had some funny moments. I liked how the detective like just wiped his brain, and that's why she's going crazy, and it really pisses her off. So we get to see some real teenage emotion from her. But I wasn't really bought into it all the way. But I think seeing Jack grow and seeing his powers come to be is amazing. One of the best scenes of this movie is Jack versus a raccoon, and that is just nothing but like 10 minutes of one of the most amazing superhero fights you'll ever see.
Better than Batman versus Superman for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Brian Wolf end you for that comment. Batman versus Superman is the greatest film ever made. Yeah, Brian, I'll agree with you on this. I think at times this movie somewhat did suffer from no main character syndrome, if you will, where you sometimes get, and that's where it gets hard with an ensemble like piece, where you have to make sure every character gets some growth, but pick someone and stick with them. Personally, you know, the movie that I think was a little bit better than Batman versus Superman, please don't kill me for that opinion, for Civil War, where every character moves forward, but is still distinctly a Steve Rogers film. I think they tried. I mean, I thought they did a great job balancing between Mr. and Mrs. Incredible, and how, you know, Mr. Incredible's journey through parenthood and Mrs. Incredible's journey through being like the breadwinner from the family. I thought that they echoed each other fantastically. That being said, when you had Violet come in and she now has almost a full arc with the boyfriend and like the teenage angst thing, and then you start throwing in Jack, and he's the one that goes to Edna, and you know, it's all about figuring out Jack's powers and what he can and apparently cannot do. You know, he's pretty much invincible in that regard. You suffered from a little bit of like character diffusion, almost, on like, who am I really supposed to be feeling for? At least they didn't put Mr. Dash front and center as well. I like how they kept him kind of tucked back. It brought at least the other three forward, but could have used a little bit more sharpening there.
Yeah, no, I mean, Dash was made to be, like you said, an ADD child, so he literally doesn't know which way to go. And I think that was kind of like the pun intended for his character.
I feel like Brad Bird kind of wrote Dash how he would write Bart Simpson. Like, he was kind of the comedic relief, but he wasn't going to be the mainstay. So like, I felt that he was kind of on the periphery, kind of running around in the corner of everyone's eyes. And he just had like, every once in a while he'd stop and have like a quip or a one-liner, and then he'd just keep going, do something else. But no, I agree to your point, Blue, at the part where it's almost the polar opposite of, it's the same thing in the first movie when Mr. Incredible gets recruited to this clandestine organization to start doing these like he gets taken to an island and he's doing these missions where he's fighting robots and he gets to superhero again and he loves it. And then in this movie, it's Elastigirl and it's less clandestine, but she gets to do all these like missions and like work for the betterment of mankind and do her superhero work. And it's kind of cool to see them expand on the character in that way, because we never really got to see her really let loose in the first movie, which is kind of cool to see her do it in this one.
Yeah, I mean...
Oh, go ahead, Brown.
All right. Yeah, just another thing I wanted to add, like, the Screenslaver, I mean, was just such a cookie cutter villain. It's just like, this is a high-tech villain that uses high-tech gadgetry to get their things accomplished. And they're enslaving people by television screens and monitors and vehicles and stuff like that, which you could have actually taken a lot further, like some type of allusion to like current, like people sticking to social media all the time and just being with their heads into their phones, and like kind of maybe it'd been cooler if they actually started it with the Screenslaver enslaving people just by showing like the ads of like Winston's corporation and stuff, and you don't really see like the generic villain static come through, and that's the thing that's brainwashing you by the things that are positive, and then like bring out the villain after that.
I think that if they did that with the companies, they would have made it unbelievably obvious on who the villain was. Because going back to what I originally said, I would have loved it if they did make it seem like Winston was the main villain and then switched it. Because there was basically it was like you didn't know who the villain was, and then they came out.
There's no misdirection. Yeah,
there was no misdirection whatsoever, and if you were quick on it, you could figure it out immediately because there was nothing that would say otherwise. I liked it. I think that, you don't have to necessarily say fake news to understand that that's what they're trying to get. Kind of like with Bao, the metaphor was ham-fisted in there, but it worked for me, where like all day I see people that are like just jammed with their phones up their eyeballs. They're pretty much just going LCD to optic nerve, at this point. Like there's no in between whatsoever. And so I think that it was a nice, like they, speaking of things they could have doubled down on, they could have like made it somehow that like you had to unplug. Like I think it was kind of cool, that fight in the cage with all the screens around it, that she like very obviously had her eyes closed, and she was fighting blind. And I think they could have made that more apparent, that you basically had to disconnect to be able to fight this thing. I wish they went down and like they almost could have introduced a bunch of gadgets like the bike, and then had her have to give all of that up. She was obviously super excited to have that bike back in her life, and then to have to give that up to be able to fight like this technological terror, if you will, would have been a nice little arc and a nice little like, hey, maybe we should put the phone, the computer down. I say this as I'm staring at my phone and talking to you over a computer. Like, but it's true. It's like this stuff is so much in our faces every single day in every single facet of how we live. Sometimes you just gotta like go read a book or go for a walk and like sniff nature, which is something I haven't done in like 6 years. But it's true, and I think that was a really poignant. Something that they could not have done 14 years ago. There wasn't anything such as, there was no iPhone 14 years ago. And I thought it really worked for today. I wanted more of it.
She did blow up the bike, though. I was surprised how quick the bike ate it.
Yeah. And I read a book on my phone today.
That doesn't count.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You can still
read a phone book. But no, that fight between Elastigirl and the fake Screenslaver, the pizza guy, that was actually pretty down and dirty. That was almost like a Netflix, like Marvel, like hallway fight. Because like she got in the face pretty hard a few times, and then she had to like punch him to like try to knock out his goggles, and then he was trying to like hypnotize her. And just the whole idea of like them hypnotizing these people is kind of creepy in general. But that fight was pretty hardcore for a kids movie.
But again, it works on a subtext that like we don't necessarily. You would never say like, oh, I was scrolling down Instagram and all of a sudden someone's post had a spinning clock, and I think that birds are, lizard people rule the universe now. Like it's never that obvious, and so I think for a good social commentary, you almost have to take it over the top. So like we don't realize it, but like a lot of social media and like the websites that we frequent are oftentimes echo chambers in what we want to hear, and then as soon as an echo builds up, it starts to really create its own voice, and all of a sudden you're now parroting someone else's opinion because you've heard it 14,000 times, and you don't actually have the free will to decide on your own opinion. And I'm guilty as ever. I go to my own select websites and I know that I believe pretty much what they say because I aggregate from there.
Pornhub.com.
No, I'm more of a RedTube person. I tried to go to YouTube Red and I mistyped it, and
just
my
free your
life's,
world,
yeah,
free your mind.
37 years later, and I'm in a better place. Yeah.
So what you're saying is everybody should watch They Live with Roddy Piper.
I would say go watch the pay-per-view match with Ronda Rousey.
That too. I mean,
Close
double
enough.
feature.
Close enough.
Yeah, I would just say like Brad Bird, he wrote The Iron Giant, he wrote the first Incredibles, and those are very deep, well thought out plots. And I feel like it was just, this plot was just kind of lazy compared to his previous works. I don't know if he had to do a rush job or something, but for 14 years of work, I mean, I don't know if he worked every day 14 years on this, but you would expect more from Brad Bird at this point.
I can agree with you on that. They should have at least put a misdirection on it. Like, the fact that you could pretty much call who the villain of the film was in the first 20 minutes was kind of inexcusable.
Well, she shows up late to that meeting, and you're like, who shows up late to anything? This woman is terrible.
I've never been late at all.
I know, nobody is.
Nope.
Except
not
for
even
evil
to this
villains.
podcast. Never been late to this podcast. All right. And so I think we've covered a lot about the different aspects of this film. I'd love to move into our final conclusions on this. Abbott, why don't you start?
Yeah, I would. My conclusion is it's a great film. I think, again, 14 years, it really feels like they put the love and the work into it. There are a few things that could have been better, obviously, but it's enjoyable. I definitely recommend. I'm not usually the kind of person to see a movie before I go to see the sequel. Like, I don't even do that with Marvel movies. I kind of just go in, whatever. This movie, because it is a direct continuation, it literally picks up right where the first one ends. I would say make sure to see the first one and refresh yourself before going into this one. I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal, but it really kind of feels like one whole movie if you do it that way. So definitely go check it out. Bring some kids if you have access to children.
Nope, that part's getting cut.
Go and meet some children at the theater, and have a good time with those children at the theater.
All right, Brian, before we get arrested, go.
All right. This is a very fun and beautiful Pixar film. It probably falls kind of mid-range in the Pixar pantheon. It just can't hold up to what the first Incredibles did. And it's just doesn't really bring any depth to its story. And you don't take anything away except for, hey, I had a fun time at the movie theaters. That movies like Ratatouille and Monsters, Inc. definitely elevate that a lot more. And I also wonder that, is Pixar and Disney, are they hurting their films by putting these amazing shorts in front of them? Because these shorts are, I find mind-blowing and amazing, and they do a lot of the best storytelling we've seen out of these studios. And then we're getting these movies that feel either very ham-fisted or very bloated when they're trying to push their point.
I'm gonna say no, but because I think you'll never advertise the short, and I think the shorts you would never remember the short if they weren't brilliant, and I think it's a great track record that they do have these brilliant shorts in front of it. Like I don't think that it necessarily bows overshadowing The Incredibles 2. That being said, if you're going to be the only company that puts a short in front of your movie, it better damn well be good. And so far they haven't messed that up, except for Frozen. I literally just contradicted myself. They messed up with Frozen. All right, as far as I'm concerned, I thought it was good, clean fun. It worked for the entire family, as most of these movies do. I will say that I did give points off because it didn't make me cry, and I feel like that's why you go to a Pixar film, is to like feel terrible about something in your life, or feel really good about something and you're crying either way. I thought this was the Fantastic Four film that we never got. To get to see like the full family dynamic and all these wild powers. It just come home to Marvel, please. Let Kevin Feige just let him do his thing and give us an actual family movie, live action that we deserve to get. One last thing that we did not touch upon that I don't think went with either one of these things. Michael Giacchino, that was an amazing score. Like that was.
Yes.
As I've said this a million times. As being like the quote unquote music guy, I don't really notice scores unless they really stick out in some way, and this one did. For not being like a groundbreaking, like Annihilation was something that was completely different and not like a traditional score. This didn't really necessarily break instrumentation or harmonic bounds, but was freaking awesome, and it perfectly grounded you in that nuevo 60s feel that the Incredibles, the Incredibles was going for. Dude, he killed it.
Did you stay for the end credits?
That's what I was gonna say. They have all the theme songs.
The theme songs
great.
for all the heroes. They were amazing.
I stayed for
jingles?
about half of it. Caroline was mighty tired, and I looked up and there was no like end credit scene. So I'm gonna look it up though, and I'm gonna go. This is pretty rare for me, but I'm gonna probably listen to that soundtrack again and listen through it all.
Yeah, for a movie that doesn't have an end credit scene, it has some of the best end credits, like style wise, and then those theme songs are fantastic.
The 3D imaging on it was incredible, where they had like the slanted pictures. So I saw it in 3D, and like I remember taking my glasses off, and it kind of looked all right. It looked like a cheap like Pixar type banner that you could do from 1997. But if you put the glasses on and it actually did the depth effect, it kind of looked cool. It looked like you were actually reading a book that kind of slanted out, as everyone on the podcast can see how my hands are pantomiming right now. But yeah, the score, like, again, compare that to his last movie. What would that have been?
Bat Potter Man?
The Ten Commandments?
Star Trek.
Ben-Hur. Yeah, compared to a traditional orchestral score that I know he's done, film composers blow my mind for this. And this is a quick soapbox. These guys, so like, if you listen to a rock dude who just like plays rock music every single time, and he does the AC/DC thing where it's like basically like, oh, here's a guitar riff for 6 albums. Like, these film composers come in and they're like, oh yeah, dude, a 1960s like theme, done, fine. The next movie is like, all right, write an orchestral score for the year 1700,000, done. Like, it's amazing to watch these people switch genres and like orchestras, on the flip of a dime. And soapbox.
Also, did you guys notice during the credits, if you stayed long enough, they had a credit for production babies, and it was all the babies that were born while the movie was being made, and there were like almost 20. I guess that's 14 years worth of boinking. So
kind of surprised it's not more.
It might have been more. I didn't really get to count, but it was a lot of baby names. It's
Yeah,
probably more than 20,
I like on the
actually.
credits of Bow. It was called Production Bows.
Let's pop out a bow.
And with that, we've been the Down and Front podcast. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this incredible review of Incredibles 2. I guess let's go around the horn one last time and say goodbye. Say where we could, people can stalk us in our day-to-day lives. Abbott, why don't you go first?
Sure. No, thanks for having me tonight. I feel so fresh and so clean, fresh out of the theater, giving my opinion on this movie. Other people who are familiar with me on the other podcast, Fear Boners, where we discuss horror movies. We just recently released our episode discussing Hereditary, which is out there right now. And you can either contact us directly at fearboners, DIFP, @gmail.com, or we're also tweeting all the time at Fearboners DIFP on Twitter, and we keep updating there as well. So we put a lot of fun stuff and posts and creepy gifs and stuff like that up there.
All right, Mr. Mouth from the South.
Yeah, you can find me fighting an army of raccoons on Twitter at Bryland, BRILUND. Also, from time to time, we'll post mini movie reviews on Instagram at I am Bryland. And very soon, the Gamescast will be coming back. It's at twitch.tv/DownInFrontPodcast.
Sweet. And I am the Shredder, your host for tonight. You could find us at downinfrontpodcast.com. If you want to, you can reach out to us at our email, downinfrontpodcast@gmail.com. Check us out on YouTube for our short form video reviews, the teasers. You can tweet us at @_DIFP, and then definitely please check us out on Patreon. Ton of different little rewards and perks for being a patron. Help us get that Arizona iced tea, if you will. As for me, I'd love to plug one specific thing, and this week it's not Maya News. I'm not plugging Maya News, but I'd love to plug our SoundCloud, where I write our variations on a theme, if you will, for our theme song. Probably not going to be one for this one, although there should. I'm just not that great of a jazz arranger, so, laziness, and don't want to, expose how much of a hack I am. As for our other email, you could definitely email us at jesserandfillshisdiaper at 163.com. Again, that's jesserandfillshisdiaper at 163.com. Yeah, thanks for joining us. You've been great. We've been the Down in Front Podcast. Bye-bye.